Okay, we're live. So, welcome back to Book Chats. It's Friday night, and we are here and doing our book chats, and we have a special guest, which is very exciting. So, I'm Jody.
I'm Trisha.
I'm Pam.
And our special guest is Pam. We're very delighted that you would come and join us tonight. So, hopefully it'll be fun.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Tonight we are discussing All Systems Red, which is book one, I guess, in the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. Trisha is going to give us a very, very brief synopsis since it's a novella.
It's a novella and it's science fiction, so it's set in space in the future, and the main character is a murderbot, which is a security unit that has taken over his own stuff. He removed the limits on him, and it's them going, because the corporations are taking over and they do everything very cheaply, so they go to a planet and bad things start to happen as he's working for this nice group of people. So
yeah, that's pretty much, that was a good synopsis,
right?
Bad
because
things
it's
happen.
bad things happen. Why it's all systems red.
Alert.
Alert. It's all going
Excellent.
fine until it isn't.
Right.
Yes.
So, Trisha, what did you think of Murderbot?
I love Murderbot. I love the character. I love the story. If the first paragraph got you so sucked in that Murderbot doesn't like people, but you got to do what you got to do for a job. So it was wonderful.
And Pam?
I liked it too. And I got hooked on the very first paragraph. One of the lines is, I could have become a mass murderer after I hacked my governor module, and then towards the end it says, as a heartless killing machine, I was a terrible failure. So, I mean, that first paragraph just hooked me, and I really wanted to continue reading.
I feel like that first paragraph really captures Murderbot as well, like their personality and just the whole ride you're going to go on with them.
Right. That was the best part about, frankly, the whole thing was its personality, if you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know that I loved it as much as you guys. Not to say I probably will continue reading them. I agree. I got hooked pretty early on with it. You're thrown literally right into this action scene,
right?
Where he's already like trying to save one of the crew members. There, you're right.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Yeah.
So it does pull you right in. Do we want to talk a little bit more, I guess, about the writing at this stage?
I liked her writing. Sure, yes. I thought her writing was very great. I thought it was very concise. And, of course, this is a novella. And so all the unnecessary stuff was completely gone. So it was nice to read a story that's so well written and that just keeps going. It's not... there are no huge descriptions that you don't need. It's like everything is just where it needs to be. So the writing was great.
And during parts of the story where some of the characters are really in, I guess you'd say, compromising situations, she really held my interest. I felt a real sense of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
So I just could not put it down.
It was pretty intense in some spots. I agree. I also thought Wells captured Murderbot's voice so well. Like, I feel before I actually started reading this book that I didn't really know what to expect, and I was like, robot. Well, okay, actually I do get pretty attached to robots. So when that happens and they take over, I'm okay with that. Befriend your robot. But that being said, I was still like, how are you going to capture this character? And Wells really does. Like, you are rooting for this character, and I feel like they're very relatable.
Very much so.
With personality, which I think we'll discuss a little bit more later. I don't want to go too far into that right now.
Yeah.
And I agree also, Trisha, that the writing was incredibly tight. Like, there was nothing wasted.
Nothing.
But if you're a good novella writer, there can't be, like you said.
Right.
You don't have time to make all this, fluff and excess. You just have to get to the meat of it. And I thought she really did. Anything else we'd like to cover with writing?
No, I like it so much that I follow Murderbot on Twitter, and they do a one line at a time from the book occasionally, and they just pick out little, and they're great sentences. They're just,
Is the account set up as if it was?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, do you want to talk about characters? We kind of already talked about Murderbot as a character a little bit more, but is there anything else you want to say before we go further into spoilers? If not, we can talk about the other characters as well.
We can talk about the other characters first.
What about Dr. Mensah? She's the leader of the crew. She's kind of running the whole situation. What was your first impression, I guess, of her?
Very strong woman, very take charge, make quick decisions. I really liked her character very much. And I liked that also in the beginning you didn't know if it was a he or a she or an it, or you didn't know, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that you get to know a character before they tell you a lot about it, although they never really told you a lot about any of the characters, and yet they did.
Well, you don't get much of a description of each individual character, and you're exactly right. You don't know if this particular character is male or female. I mean, not that it makes a difference, until you read further, and then maybe they use some pronouns like she or he or whatever. And the other thing in regards to the characters that I really enjoyed is there's a lot of really strong women characters. And there's a lot of books out there that you don't see such strong women characters,
especially in this genre. I know it's very exciting to see that we're kind of moving out of that.
And I did also on Murderbot enjoy the whole that Murderbot called itself it, and I still say it wrong sometimes because the picture on the front of the book, more than anything, if you look, I don't know if you guys can see the cover,
looking.
It's very masculine looking, so it's hard because I tend to say he, but it's not.
I want to come back to that for sure, because I have
thoughts.
Well, I've discussed this with someone else about that as well. But I also wanted to say on the comment where you said you didn't know a character's gender, do you think that's because you're getting all of this through the perspective of Murderbot, who probably has no care of that?
Yes.
Oh, good point.
Very good.
So I feel like you don't get that because they don't care.
It doesn't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't care either.
Yeah. It's not an important part of what they need to know in this moment.
Oh, that's excellent.
And so
and
you
then
get it as they start
I like
speaking.
the author even more because that had to be a conscious choice.
Oh, I feel like it was very much a conscious choice.
Nice.
I don't feel like anything in this book was not very deliberate.
Yes, okay, good. I agree with that.
And then, yes, I totally agree. I feel like in some ways Tor did a disservice to the cover because they did make it very much a male build and a male look. And I don't know if they were trying to do that to get those readers, because when you look at this, I think some readers might automatically think that this is a very different kind of book than it is.
Yes.
Not to say that those readers won't also enjoy this. I'm not trying to say
I think
that.
everybody would enjoy this.
I think everybody enjoys this, and it can be a little bit of an off-putting cover.
Right, and it's why in the beginning especially I kept thinking he, even though it says it, but it doesn't really get into that until later. But
well, what made me want to read this book is Trish and I had watched through the Tucson Festival of Books a presentation by 3 science fiction authors, and Martha Wells was one, and she talked about Murderbot, and that her presentation on that was so intriguing that I had to go out and buy it and read it.
Me too.
Yep.
Me too.
I will say I'm not much of a sci-fi reader myself, but because of all the hype around it and the people who spoke to me about enjoying it, I was like, well, if you liked it, I guess it's probably good.
And come on, how can you not read? I have to make myself do things I don't want to do, like talk to humans. How can you not want to read something like that?
But I feel like because of the cover, I was just like, this is too spacey for me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't initially drawn to it.
And because I do more crime and murder books,
you should have picked it up immediately.
When it was called, but it was called All Systems Red, not Murderbot.
It's Murderbot Diaries.
But I didn't see that in the beginning.
And for me too, my favorite genre isn't necessarily science fiction, but after seeing her presentation, I just had to get it.
Had to do it.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Now,
And she won the Nebula this year. Yeah.
And the Hugo.
And the Hugo.
yeah. I will say, to Tor's defense on this cover, that Murderbot is a security bot. Therefore, the build has to sort of be in this design. If you were really hiring a security bot, you're going to want a big, strong force.
Right.
And they do talk along the way in some part of the book about all of them look the same, and they are, all very huge.
I mean, they're built to secure the things that they are securing.
Yeah, well, their job is to protect the
So
clients.
I get why
Right.
Murderbot looks the way they look, but
Me too, but it's difficult.
yes. Okay. Anything you want to say before we spoil this book and ruin it for
Are we
everyone?
going to talk about any of the other characters, or are we just one lady?
Is there anyone else you would like to talk about?
Well, could I say something
Yes,
also
please.
about Murderbot? I think one of the things that was really interesting was the its consumption of
We're gonna
entertainment.
Yeah,
definitely talk about that.
Oh, okay.
The only other character all of the characters stood out for me. I agree with what Pam said about the women are very strong, and I also really like the one guy who was human enhanced.
Yeah, I was like,
An
I
enhanced
forgot about
human,
him. Yeah.
right? And
Dr. Girthin.
There you go.
So you liked him,
Girthin,
huh?
Girthin.
Well, I did, because he could do some of the data stuff like Murderbot does, and he was also human, and he was very skeptical, and he was the one that always tested Murderbot. And
Yeah, he had quite a little edge.
he definitely did, but I think it was on purpose. I think they needed the story needed someone to take that
A
part.
devil's advocate of
Yes.
what happens if our Murderbot really is a murder bot.
Right, and the Murderbot
yeah.
job is to kill us all out in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere, and we're all going along going, yes, let's all go.
I mean, I guess you would want that person on your crew.
yes, exactly. And then because the Dr. Mensah was so quick with decisions and making up her mind so quickly, I think you needed somebody else who was like, hey, wait a minute, cool your jets a second, and let's just talk about this.
I loved her decisiveness, though.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel at this point we're going to spoil this.
Spoilers.
Because it's very short, so that's just how this is going to go. So, go read this. We all obviously liked it, so we recommend you go read this and then come back and view this later. Okay. Okay. I think we're good.
If you're still here, be warned.
Yeah, right. So, I think we should talk first about the consumption of all the cereals, as Murderbot calls
And not
them.
only the cereals and the books and the music and any other form of entertainment.
Yes. They were very obsessed with their human entertainment for a robot who very much does not care about humans.
Right.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that
I
dichotomy.
did too. And I love I can still pay attention to the security feeds.
Yes.
And I can listen to what the humans are doing when I have to, and I can keep up with the health feeds. But I get to watch my cereals.
It was like the lazy way of doing
Right.
his security.
Yes.
Which I really appreciated because it made the robot more human.
right.
You know, like you could totally see a security guard being like, "Yeah, I'm watching
Well, I'm reading
this stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm also
Yeah.
not really."
Right.
It was what the
Right.
rise and fall of Sanctuary Moon or
Yes.
something. That was the thing that,
That
he
was
was
the
hooked
cereal.
on.
And I love that. Yeah, he didn't like humans at all. Really, I felt like he was. It was very much an introvert
Yeah, with anxieties.
with massive anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
which was fascinating because how often do you have a robot?
See, this is the slippery slope of AI.
Right.
This is why you should just realize that they are individuals as well,
right.
and you should just befriend them.
At the
because,
beginning,
you know.
be nice at the beginning. It's like people. Be nice at the
This
beginning.
is also why I avoided this book, because typically I get very attached to the robots.
I love Murderbot.
And then I'm devastated when the humans revolt against them. And so I'm hoping that's not how this story goes.
Well, you read the story, so
This one, but I haven't read the other parts of the diary.
okay.
Yes. Because then I get very upset.
Well, at one point in the book, he says, "I hate having emotions about reality."
Right.
So he's kind. You know, here you have a character that's developing, constantly developing. You find out all kinds of interesting
Okay,
things
now-
about
yeah.
it. It.
Right. It.
Constantly developing humanity.
Yes.
And that's kind of the interesting thing is, do then all sentient creatures become
Yes.
more... Okay, then. Jody said yes, we'll go with that. It is interesting because did its humanity develop more? It does have some human parts that will rebuild if something happens, which happens, just so you know. But is watching the serials what made it more human?
I kind of thought that. I thought they were so immersed into this show, and then like it just kind of seeps out onto them. It felt like,
Yeah.
And then my favorite part, I think, too, in this book is how it went from I don't care about these humans to they are not killing my humans. These are my humans.
And that's but the interesting thing about that is that was its job.
But he
As
had
a sec unit, he had no attachment to them, but as a sec unit, his responsibility is to the clients. And you never let your clients die.
To an extent, but he was very much like, meh, at
Yeah.
the beginning. And towards the end, he was like, oh, no, these are my people.
Right. Except when in the beginning, when bad something happened, he went immediately and rescued them.
Yes, but he also had a limit where he would let them go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it was an interesting balance between, I don't care about you at all. You're a stupid human. And don't mess with my human. I really like this person. I don't like this person. I'm going to care about this. I'm going to care for this person.
Yeah.
Because so much of its behavior during the book was like when somebody got injured, he held them to him to make sure that they wouldn't bleed out. And and then the other interesting thing is toward the beginning when Murderbot was helping the people, and then he helped these two people, and one of them he took its helmet off, so that one of the people he was helping could see its face, because its face is human, and it didn't want
to scare him.
It didn't want to scare him, so it was trying to help that guy, and was talking to him. And when all the other people watched that part of the feed, because everything they do is recorded for the corporation, they were all like, "Oh my God, this is not a robot. This is not a careless, selfless, not selfish, whatever, just a robot." And the other people started to kind of freak out a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely didn't know how to handle Murderbot in the early stages. Yeah. And they didn't understand how Murderbot didn't want to be interacted with or looked at. I appreciated Dr. Mensah for that, because she was very good at being like, you need to leave the Murderbot alone.
And I love when Murderbot would just go stand in the corner and face the wall, because it was just all too much. Yeah. There were people.
I know. I feel like you can really relate to all. Well, maybe not you, but I felt like I could relate to
but
all
it's
that,
interesting because at certain times in your life, we all try to interact with people and get along and do that, and it wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't prepared to have people stare at it, and it.
Yeah. It was just too overwhelming.
It was too overwhelming. Even when it was going somewhere with a human, and they were going for 2 or 3 hours, and then all of a sudden the human said something, and Murderbot was like, "Oh crap!"
Right, you're here talking to me,
and I have to respond.
Oh my God! And so that was so great, and I
also enjoyed how Murderbot started to realize their series was actually people, and those feelings that they're watching on the show are actually feelings that these people are demonstrating to him. Sorry. So it was very interesting as they progressed, I guess, to see that change. And again, that's why I think I liked when they were like, they're my people.
Right. Well, and even the parts where it was like this, most of the clients I've worked for in the past are just turkeys, and they're jerks, and I don't like them. And this group of people is the first people I've been around that are kind to each other, and they care about each other. And then it was looking at feeds of them interacting and realizing that they really do care for each other, and they're really good people. And I think that was a part of the growing attachment, even though it would say, I don't like people. I don't like humans. I can't deal with, and then it would be like, don't mess with me.
But again, can't you? Well, maybe you can't relate to that. I can relate to that, like
Yeah.
feeling like, people, I don't want to interact, and then you're like, well, dang it, I like that person.
Right? I can talk to this one because they're nice. I do get that.
Did you think Murderbot was a reliable narrator?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I do.
Really?
Because Murderbot recorded everything.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not so sure about how reliable. Well, how reliable is any narrator? I mean, because Murderbot's dealing with all this stuff on his particular level. So, and his interpretation, is it completely accurate?
But frequently, it was telling you what it was listening to, seeing, interacting with. So, I think
It was pretty observant, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because of his position as a protector.
I'm going to side with Pam.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry.
I can handle disagreement.
And say that I didn't think Murderbot was overly a reliable narrator. I think they did their best. But we already know he hacked their system. They already have, like, made decisions like, I could do what corporate wants, but I could also just do this. And I am pretty sure there was a moment when the feeds were altered so that corporate wasn't seeing certain things, or were seeing things that they were okay to see.
However, in my side,
Uh-huh.
it did it to help the humans. That doesn't mean it's an unreliable narrator. It said it was doing it. It said, I'm going to put, other ambient noise in so they think that there's stuff going on, because the corporations are all bad and evil companies.
Maybe they're lying to themselves too, though.
I believe the corporations were all bad and evil.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I think all the corporations are bad.
Well,
any dystopic novel will tell you corporation is bad.
It's bad.
I guess the other thing is it does not have a lot of education, except it did read a lot and watched a lot of serials, because as it said somewhere, is the corporation uses the cheapest everything, so their education model was not very good. So, maybe,
I don't know that it was deliberately not reliable.
Okay.
But I think that there were things that could have definitely be altered.
Okay.
And perspective is always interesting. I'm kind of with you on that, too.
Yeah, perspective, absolutely.
So, how reliable is any one person? It's always in the gray, the truth.
But a robot's a whole different thing. I totally believe Murderbot the whole time.
This robot, though, I don't know. It's pretty human.
One of the things that one of the people who did a review of this book said that I loved, it said, Murderbot gives humanity a chance it shows how humanity actually has a chance to survive. And I thought, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah. So, changing subjects drastically.
Yes.
What did you think about the fact that they dubbed themselves Murderbot, and there's this backstory that we're being alluded to, like where they went and murdered a whole bunch of their clients?
I think it's hard because, as we find out throughout the story, that they're programmed to do their job, and if somebody programs you to do that, I don't know how you say. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I guess my question
And that's
really
why it's
is,
Murderbot.
did you think Murderbot to be evil because of this incident?
No.
Oh, I did not either.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It was kind of like beyond its control.
Yeah, and I feel like Murderbot themselves kind of felt like they could have been a little evil, and I feel like they also had a lot of trauma that I'm hoping we will deal with in these upcoming books, because they have a very different perspective on how that was handled as well.
Yes.
I feel like.
And on the unreliable part with this part too, is it is interesting, because it'd be very interesting to get a story from corporate point of view and somebody at corporate to see how they saw their job, and how the sec units are supposed to work.
And didn't Murderbot lose memory at that stage as well?
Yes,
So
toward
like
the end,
already tampered with as well.
Right.
So then there's a question as to what really did happen.
Although they said whoever had already uploaded all of his stuff to one of the hoppers, so that it was okay because they just put all that back. But yes, there did you see her face? I get that you could be missing. There could still be things missing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I haven't read the next one yet.
I've only started the next one, but I've already read the 4 after that.
You just skipped book 2?
I didn't really think about it, that there was an order to it when I started reading these. I just got whatever we had here, and I read them all.
Quite funny.
Well, I've read the first 3.
Yeah, good. So that's good. And did you read the full novel then too?
I didn't know there was. Which one's the full novel?
The one that
Oh, the one that I just had picked up.
It's over there. But anyway, there's also a
the
full
the
It's okay.
furtive something.
No.
Telemetry, future telemetry. Oh, never. I did read that.
One.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
Do we want to talk about the end?
Oh, let's talk about the end.
The end. Okay. What would you like to talk about with the end? Anything? Otherwise, I'll leave
Well, in talking about all the AI stuff and robots and things, it is interesting that part of the story is that the governors on the sec units get hacked by the evil company trying to, and then they had them kill all the people in that other pod that was going on. I mean, that was fascinating that it does happen. So then how do you think, I guess it's no different from brainwashing people in some ways, except maybe easier because you could just suck out all their stuff and put your own stuff in. But that was fascinating to me.
So you're talking about the part where
they went to
the other side of the planet,
the other
because
side
there
of the
was
planet.
another team there doing research that they were no longer able to get into communication
Well,
with.
originally they were going there because some of the maps were wrong and they wanted to talk to them.
And they lost communication.
And then on the way
them,
they lost communication, right.
So they went. Okay, so that's what you're... And then you're referencing when the other sec bots came in.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to catch
the other
everyone.
sec unit. Yes, so they went across the planet to talk to these other people who they talked to on the radio.
Yes.
And they wanted to see, and the people were all dead.
Yes, and then the other bots were
And some of the bots
trying
were
to
dead.
kill and attack.
Yes.
I mean, it was very violent.
Very violent.
Scene that they walk into when they come down, when Murderbot and I guess Dr. Mensah's still in her flight pod thing.
The hopper.
Thank you. What is it called?
Yeah.
Flight pod. Did you
hopper.
like that?
I did it. I got where you were headed, so it was fine.
Thank you. Yes, and so there's a big blowout between Murderbot and these other units, but he gets out. They get out.
One of my favorite things that it said at that time was the thing about, I'm not built as a military unit, so I don't have all this stuff, but I do have an arm that does.
I also liked how resourceful Murderbot was with their the little drones.
Right, they
always had going.
It sends up all the drones to look around.
I mean,
even inside.
Not a military unit, but very resourceful on things they were using. But needless to say, they got pretty hammered and beaten up pretty well.
Well, because that one part where it says, our strategy is to throw yourself at the other.
Oh yeah.
Until whoever wins, and I'm down to the 28%, and I'm out.
So were you surprised when Murderbot basically went offline completely and was at this point pretty much done for? But were you surprised when the team took them out?
No, because they were nice people. They were good people.
And they liked him.
And they liked him. And then the other part that is always good to know before you start reading is that there are more books. So Murderbot's coming back. And it's after that I realized it was the Murderbot Diaries, and it would be around for a while.
Yeah.
So I love that.
I will say I hit that spot and was like, oh no. Like,
because it's offline.
I hope you're going to be able to come back online. Like, what kind of repairs? I mean, they were in pieces at this stage,
right?
And like the human parts, you knew were just shredded.
Gone. Yeah. That was even in the very beginning when it was saving those two people, and it was going into its little hibernation thing that helps it regenerate, and then when it left and Dr. Mensah came in and it was like, okay, you can go now. I don't want you to see me like this. And then when it got healed and got out of its little pod, it was like, oh, look at the floor. I love that. Yeah. It was just because there was
pieces
a
all
mess,
over.
and it was like, oh, I guess Dr. Mensah knew how bad I was.
Yeah.
It was great.
But I loved when Murderbot came back online and was like,
I know.
oh,
Yay!
they did care. I am here. Which then leads me to the end. Like, were you surprised at the very, very end when he chooses to not go off with the team and continue to help them on their planet, but to go off and actually do his own thing, their own thing?
No.
I wasn't surprised either. Because they bought him.
Yeah. Which is not great. Yeah.
But I mean, they're what were their alternatives? They wanted to give him a better life, but he needed to do his own thing.
Yeah, and the intent was good for the purchasing of the robot. But I agree that they need to go
being
off.
bought, that's kind of
right.
That's
And
a difficult concept to handle.
I want to think that they would free the Murderbot later on, but we don't know that.
We don't know that.
We don't know that they're really good intentions. It just felt like that at that moment.
I think the other part was that Murderbot knew that it was out of the system completely, because that was part of the deal, that they had to watch it be deleted out of the system, out of the corporate system, so nobody knew that it was a sec unit and that it once belonged to them. So it was out of inventory. It could do what it wanted to a degree. And then two, I think that it looked at all of those serials and it read all the books and it thought, I don't want to work in somebody's yard. I don't want to do farm work for them. I don't want to be a domestic. I need to figure out what I want to be. And I totally love that.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's its own identity and its own...
Yeah.
I can't say person because it's not, but it is.
Its own, almost getting to be human, but its own, and it does have human pieces, and it thinks that maybe that's where some of the intuition, when it feels, I don't know, it's very interesting.
That's how,
I don't know.
And that inspired Murderbot to hack their unit?
I don't know.
Because they had human parts?
I don't.
I know. I want to know what really was the driving. Well, they did it because they had to, didn't they? Have to because the education module or something wasn't working, so they had to hack it in order to do something else.
No, it went through and learned how to do everything, and then just said, "I don't want."
There was a reason. There was a reason.
I'm not sure,
but I don't remember what it was. I'll look later. Okay. Sorry.
I even read it again yesterday just because I wanted to, and I don't remember.
They had to do it.
I thought it said it learned all the education on the Murderbot or the sec units and how they worked. And realized it could.
No, there was like a broken part that they wouldn't upgrade because they were too cheap to do it, but they needed to do it in order for Murderbot to keep going. And so finally Murderbot was like, well, fine, I'm just going to do it myself, and I'm just going to do this workaround.
Maybe.
Is what I recall.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Well, and then that's interesting, too, because if a sec unit goes bad, they take it apart and they use parts for other things, and Murderbot did not want that.
No, I get that.
So that's where you get the part of learning to be sentient. And
I will say I was a little bit sad knowing that the next book isn't going to have the same crew, because I really liked the crew, except for the one dude I'm still iffy about. It's fine.
But then we don't know what the future books are going to, if there'll be interaction, with that team further on down the road.
That is all true, although I'm hoping, and that's all I'm going to say.
I'm not saying anything. Just gonna sit here quietly.
Right. A part of me kind of wishes they would bind these all together and I could just read it. I was all one short.
What if they ultimately will do that?
Like they did with Binti.
Or at least 3 at a time or something.
Yeah, that's total side tangent. Sorry, I don't know why I went down that road, but I did.
It's all right. I get it. Because it was a nice, quick read, though. Yeah. Which I enjoyed, because sometimes it does help you get out of a reading slump if you're in one.
Yes. Quick read. I, again, love the personality, the humor, and the snark.
I love this snark.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a good time.
Yeah, and especially the snark aimed at whether it was the corporation or people. It was just every once in a while I would just laugh out loud because it was just like, I'm really a failure at this. Yeah. But let me go check all the units and make sure there's not something going to come up out of the ground and eat you all. It was great.
I'll go do my job.
Right?
they were pretty good at their job, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, even
was,
though they
yeah.
were watching their show all the time.
Well, I even liked when it said, I was thinking I could just get rid of all these people and I have enough cereals to last me and my batteries would last for X amount of hours, and it was a ton of hours, like years and years into the future. And that was kind of funny. And it was like, but
I also liked at the very end that they used the cereals as a bartering
to get on a transport. Right. I'll share this with you. I did too.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
There was so right.
So, anything else that you feel we didn't discuss that you would like to discuss on this book?
You know, I can't think of anything else.
Me either. This was great. We did more than I was thinking. So this, we talked about the book longer than it was reading. Not really. It took me longer than that.
Okay, I was like, dang, you are a fast reader.
No,
girl.
I'm not that fast. But it's only like 160 pages, so it was.
It's a short, quick read. Yeah, you can do it in a sitting. No problem there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we highly recommend this, so go read it, and then all of the other Murderbot Diaries, so you can find out what happens to Murderbot and everything else.
And Pam and I even both read it twice, and we liked it better the second time.
Yeah, I could see
Really?
that being a good read the second time.
It was.
I think it would hold up
You
to that.
you learned a lot more, and you realized because you already knew stuff, so you read it different, which was great. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
See all that foreshadowing.
Yes. Right.
All right, so that means we're at the part where I tell you about next week. So next week, Natasha will be joining me. And because it's a Fifth Friday, we thought, why not do a Fifth Friday mix-up, which we haven't done in a while. So we're doing the Fifth Friday mix-up, the reading slump. So we're going to talk all about being in that terrible, terrible reading slump, how you get there, how you get out of it, what's your go-to way to get out of it, and all other things. So be sure to tune in next week, Friday at 5:30. All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, that